Hello. Welcome to the first episode of the Nflementop 100, as we are going to be calling it. If you haven't checked out the intro video to this series, please do. Sets out Liam's lovely parameters, which we will hear more about in a second, as well as just giving a general introduction to what we're trying to do. So today, of course, the first set of 10. We are dividing them into 10, of course. Today is 100 through till 91. How are you all feeling about it?
Good. Excited for this top 100.
Controversial and good.
Controversial.
Yeah, controversial.
AKA the NFL Elementary Show. So, just to quickly recap the parameters for those of you who haven't seen it, Liam, do you want to just run through them quickly?
So, loosely, what we wanted to do was use the NFL Top 100 as a model and try to avoid moving more than 2 players up and down out of each band of 10 to the next.
Yep.
However, as is my way, I like my parameters like I like my economics. Laissez-faire.
Down straight.
And what
Did
we
you think it
found,
was going to be something like cool?
yeah. What we
It's
found,
an economics joke, Mark.
Yeah.
academia,
I just
innit?
know it from history, GCSE, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Economics or laissez-faire?
No, laissez-faire.
right.
But yeah, so what we found is particularly in the upper reaches, where things are a bit more contentious about who's making it in,
Yeah.
we've had to be a bit
Improvise.
flexible.
Yeah.
Abandon.
Massage the parameters, some might say.
Destroy. Take them down.
Yeah, so it's not quite... in this episode, and probably in the next episode, hopefully by the third episode, we'll kind of get the ship under control, as it were. It's going to be a lot of new entries coming in. It's going to be a lot of shipping the trash out, essentially.
That's mean, but
Wow.
yes,
Not that they're trash.
Wow. Yeah,
It's
only
only the
the
top
102nd
100 column.
best player.
Yeah,
like
true.
they're negligible.
Yeah,
They're not
this
quite
is the
elite.
boundary line.
There's a
and
lot
look,
of trash on Carolina's team then.
The one short should be in here, but that's a discussion for another day. We're going to be stepping on some people's toes. We're going to make some people angry. I'm looking at you, Mark, but it has to be done. So firstly, if we discuss these notable omissions, that will probably make you angry, Mark. There are 2, and everyone, what I would say is, if you two would like to restrain Mark briefly while I say this, or not, Jimmy
Fear the dog.
Garoppolo and Deshaun Watson
Yeah.
are not in our top
They are
100.
They're not. They shouldn't be
They,
either.
they shouldn't
No.
be. They have, as stellar as their small sample size is, it is just that there
When
isn't. They don't have a full season.
An impact on their teams.
But they don't have a full season.
Do you know what's even more questionable? Is how there was 40 places between the two of them.
Yeah.
What did Deshaun Watson do that was 40 places
Yeah.
better
He
than
just
Garoppolo?
excited more people, I
Yeah,
guess.
and I mean, they were an awesome set of games from both, but
Yeah.
Watson's was bonkers.
Particularly exciting.
But
That's
you
the
know,
Eagles game.
there are quarterbacks who have
A full
played a
season,
whole season.
or a full career even
Yeah.
behind them, backing up what was another great season.
and they will obviously there'll be those guys will be discussed, but
But I
Yeah.
think just for excitement purposes, Deshaun Watson, I think I
No,
mentioned
it's
it
not-
earlier.
It's not.
It's
It's
not-
not
He's
the
the
NFL
40th.
most exciting 100,
No.
or as you would say, the NFL fantasy 100.
it is.
Mark off camera was advocating for Greg Zuerlein and Johnny Hecker, and I'm sorry, but
Johnny Hecker
in
was a
terms of
joke.
most
Stats.
skill,
Stats.
yeah.
No,
Skill.
so
So many kickers miss.
but if anything,
Are you really for real? Are you actually for real?
if anything though,
Yeah.
these are the 2 less controversial
Yeah.
omissions, really, because
Well,
So-
yeah.
I'll take the bullets. Please don't at me on Twitter, but do at Nflementop. The 2, I mean, I'm just going to come out and say it. Ryan Shazier and Cam Chancellor are not in our top 100, and it's not because we think they're sympathy votes, and it's not because they got injured. Realistically, Ryan Shazier before this season has not been in the top 100, and yes, he had a good half a season, just
Yeah,
over
he
half a
sta- he
season.
started really
He started
well.
really well,
He was
played really well.
he was a standout for that defense, and he's been solid.
But if we're discounting people for small sample sizes, just because his small sample size was due to a horrific injury from which we, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with him, we wish him all the best, but it's not enough to get on our top 100. Cam Chancellor, equally, this wasn't the first season that he's missed games. So if I quickly look up his stats, I won't. He hasn't played a full season since 2013, and that He's been in the top 100 since then, but not having played a full season. This was his last season before retirement. He only played 9 games. It all just kind of adds up to he's been in decline for a number of years. And don't get me wrong, declining from greatness means you're still very good. He was still an incredible safety this season. Was he a top 100 safety? Well, I mean, he was a top 100 safety. Was he a top 100 player? Probably not, no.
mean,
I've just clicked on what you said.
We're probably talking boundary again, but for us, for myself personally, for us as a group, it just didn't seem that he was at that level.
Well done,
It
Cam.
means
You
that-
made 101.
If we put someone like Chancellor or Shazer in, it means we have to take out someone who not only had a full season worth including them, but probably had a number of seasons behind that in which they were building up to
I mean,
this.
it must be said that we will have people in there who were injured.
Yeah.
But that what they have done previous is so unavoidably
Excellent.
Yeah.
That we can't do it.
Yeah.
For example, Richard Sherman, who we're going to be discussing in a moment, obviously was also injured this season, but this was the first season that he's missed games due to injury. He's played every single game since being drafted before then. Obviously,
Which is impressive for a player.
yeah, and a very integral part of the Legion of Boom. Multiple kind of Pro Bowls, notwithstanding the fact that we don't like Pro Bowls on
No,
the show.
we do not like
Another,
Pro Bowls.
another player who's going to come up, and this could get criticism because he's had 2 consecutive seasons shortened by injury, and that's JJ Watt.
Yeah.
But
You look at JJ Watt's production before those injuries.
and the level he's at, like he's when he's playing at his level, he's a cut above everyone. You ask any GM in the league, would they like JJ Watt? Obviously they would.
Yeah, they'll take the injury risk. The other 2 names that aren't included that are probably worth mentioning, Delaney Walker, because no offense, mate, but you are probably the most overrated tight end in the league. Despite the fact you seem to argue the most underrated, you're not even in my top 5. Go home.
What in terms of underrated or best?
Best. You are definitively in my top 1 of overrated tight
He has
ends.
stats because the Titans have no receivers.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't anyway. I mean, is Eric Decker in
I
Tennessee
think
now?
he was.
Eric
he was.
Decker?
I'm pretty sure he's left free agent. I'm not sure. And Cameron Wake, similar kind of story. Great player. Has done a lot for the Dolphins. How much of that has been to do with the presence of Sue on that D line? I guess we'll find out next season.
But just again, like my favourite kind of phrase would be, he wasn't pulling up trees for me. Like,
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
Was he a game breaker? Probably not.
Probably not.
Game breaker, game changer. These are my 2 new phrases that I've coined that you'll probably hear a lot throughout this top 100. So right, cracking on with our 100 to 91 list. So I have a list of 10 based loosely around the NFL top 100 list. I'll run you through them. There are some additions that I've made. So I'll take you through the additions first. Julius Peppers.
Yeah, I think that's.
He's still going, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's been going
For
forever.
a very long time.
Yeah.
Number 4 in the all-time sacks list.
I think he was there when it was still the AFL and the NFL.
Before the merger.
Yeah.
he was there before
Super
it was
Bowl
the Vince
didn't have a
Lombardi
number.
trophy. Yeah.
It was just the Super Bowl.
Brandon Graham is one that Max kind of advocated. I think.
Yeah,
for sure.
I, even if it's just for that play alone, but I can't believe that an integral part of that team
It hasn't been recognised.
missed. Yeah.
Alex Mack, that was kind of a collective one. wasn't
Very
it?
good. Very
Probably
good centre.
one of the best centres in the league, if not the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a core feature of that Falcons O-line. Malik Jackson.
Beast.
I wanted Kawan Short. We seem to have gone with Malik Jackson.
Yeah,
but-
Malik Jackson, because he plays with Campbell and with Ngakwe, but still,
Yeah,
beast.
great player. And yeah, that's it, isn't it? And then we have a couple of drops down into the 90s, players that weren't there before. What am I doing? Doug Baldwin is still there. Actually, I'll just run through the 90s. So Bakhtari, I think he's too good for the 90s.
He's
Yeah,
far
I'm not
too
gonna lie
good.
to you.
It makes no
Probably
sense.
much higher. Collins, similar story, too good for the 90s. Mike Daniels, we'll keep him in this discussion, I think, if that's all right. Kirk Cousins, too good for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like by an exorbitant amount, but not
Yeah.
really a 90s player. Lane Johnson, similar story, needs to be a little bit higher. Malcolm Jenkins again,
Yep.
needs to be a little bit higher. Carlos Hyde, why is he in the top 100? Someone tell me.
Like, it says a lot.
A piece of toast could function in a
says a
Shanahan
lot-
offense better than
It
Carlos
says a lot.
Hyde.
Like, we were like, is he a notable omission or is he just
An omission.
an omission?
Yeah.
Like, sorry,
Jerick
Carlos.
McKinnon next year will show exactly how rubbish Carlos Hyde is. He led the team in carries and receptions, sure, but in a Shanahan offense, someone like McKinnon, I'm super excited. I've said that before, I'll say it again.
When you think as well that this episode, when the NFL released it, was the first one, and one of the first names that come up is Carlos Hyde, you just knew this list wasn't going well.
Like, imagine trying to get hyped to that top 100 list when the fourth name announced is Carlos Hyde. You'd be like, oh, are we going from like 800?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
CJ Mosley is too high. Is too low for me. Sorry again.
Yeah.
I think he's a better player than that.
Yeah.
Doug Baldwin. I don't know. We'll have a chat about that, but I feel like this is probably his kind of level. Clinton Dix, despite one of the best names in the NFL, is not in the top 100. He is definitely in the top 100 names. Whether that can extend to his playing.
He's close to number one for names.
I remember him because of his name, which is sadly the only reason why.
Probably not the biggest indictment on his playing.
Wouldn't it just be fantastic if, like, next season he just told everyone that actually it's pronounced ha-ha?
Or he.
But it's like, it's supposed to be pronounced in the style of Alan Partridge.
Oh,
can you imagine? Clinton Dix.
I still remember the first time I was watching a Green Bay game, and he did something. It was like, great tackle by Clinton Dix, and I was like, is something funny?
That's
Have I missed
nothing.
something? Like, who's Clinton Dix, and why are you laughing?
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Right, cracking on with the list. Keenum, he's at 51. I don't think he deserves it.
It's
Oh,
absurd.
not that he deserves it necessarily, but it's just not the right place for him.
He had a really good season. He's like,
It's interesting to compare Keenum with Garoppolo and Watson, who we've left out, because Garoppolo and Watson, well, I mean, firstly, they're all three people of which Mark is a huge fanboy.
but
so
let's
that's nice
look.
to link.
If we look at pure talent, do you want? If you can have two of the three, you're not taking Keenum.
Yeah.
But if you were asked who has got the best
Who's
track
done
record,
the most,
who's actually done it, well, it's Keenum.
Keenum took a team to the playoffs
He
last
did
year. That's
indeed.
something that Garoppolo and Watson, maybe Watson could have done if he didn't get injured. That's all up in the air. Garoppolo factually didn't.
Well, what's the most valuable thing about a player?
Their availability.
Um,
You might hear that one again in the coming,
Okay, so if
coming
it's
weeks.
their availability, then Garoppolo didn't actually get traded to
5 games,
San Francisco until then.
5 games.
Yeah, but that doesn't, just because you
He
are
was
available doesn't
available.
mean you played.
5 games.
The jury's still out on that.
If
because at the
Garoppolo
end
is
of the
so
day,
good,
that
why didn't he
49ers
start instead of Brady?
That 40,
5 games.
oh come on, that 49ers team had absolutely nothing to lose except another 10
And
more games.
everything.
And respect. But yeah, like,
Yeah.
if all three of them play a full season next year,
Then it's a fun
Keenum's not
comparison.
close.
Yeah.
but currently Keenum played most of the season.
He deserves to be in. However, I'm sorry, Keenum. Do you know what, actually? He's probably the strongest player on our list
Keenum is the strongest player on our list.
because he's at the bottom holding everyone else up.
Oh,
Ahoy!
Wow.
God.
Okay. Wow.
You were so confused.
I was. I thought you'd had a change of heart and we're going to put him at number one and I was going to be so happy.
Oh yeah, we're just gonna flip the script. Case Keenum's actually our surprise one. Now, as well, next year I think Keenum is in the worst position. Oh, okay, no, he's not in the best position of those three
Yeah.
either. He's an advanced
He's at
Joseph-led team.
Nice
Okay.
smile. But
Yeah, he's got a really nice smile.
you might hear that one again.
Yeah.
Moving up then. I won't lie to you. The initial reason for this placing was the nice coincidence which it caused. JJ Watt at 99. Because he wears number 99. And also because, I mean, look, if you lined up every single player we're going to go through on this list eventually and you said GM's pick one, I'm sure JJ Watt will get picked above a lot of other players.
And I would like to say that if he'd only been injured last season and had a full year the year before,
He'd be a hell of a lot
vastly higher.
yeah.
But now we've had 2 back-to-back seasons cut short. If
And-
he gets another one, then it's a real
Yeah.
problem. But his
It's
talent
testament
level,
to him, his talent, his work rate, his impact that he's had on the league, that despite the fact he's done, I mean, I know he played a couple games this year, really nothing of significance over the last 2 years, and
I
he's
remember-
still ranked in our top 100.
aside from Deshaun Watson plays last season, mainly to Hopkins, there's one Texans player I remember, and that was on
That
the
was
kind of
the-
end of the game,
yeah.
pitched the ball back where he drilled a guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
at least we could still
I
tackle.
mean, that's JJ Watt. There
Yeah.
you go.
I think it's scary to think that if he'd never been injured the way he had been, what
What
sort
would
of
have
player
happened,
he
yeah.
would be.
And even using our loose parameters, if we're using 50-50 last season, like when he played, he was fine. He was
Yeah.
really short, but his career up to that has been
It's been
stellar.
spectacular. Defensive
Yeah.
Rookie of the Year, 2 Defensive Player of the Year, am
It's
I
just
right? Which
crazy.
is virtually
Like-
unheard of.
Yeah.
So yeah, JJ Watt at number 99.
Walter Payton Man of the Year. Because, you know, that is...
He's a nice guy.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Greg Olsen should have won it.
Case Keenum should have won it.
we
Case
really
Keenum
gonna
Case
should
have
Keenum should not
Are
have
we
won
at-
it.
Case Keenum-
What are you
What has
on
he
about?
done?
Get your head out his arse.
Have you met Case Keenum?
Have
He's so lovely.
you met Case Keenum?
You realise that Walter Payton Man of the Year isn't just for the nice guy. You have to be nice and do
Well,
some useful
Case
stuff.
Keenum smiled at an old lady in the street, so
Oh, well, we know Michael Bennett ain't getting that done.
Oh God.
Anyway. Anyway.
right. Moving on to kind of the other end of the list. The kind of players that I'm looking at for 91ish. Julius Peppers. Obviously, if we take the 50 from season-wise, he gets more than 100% in terms of points. What a career. Last season as well, 11 sacks.
That's the thing.
Co-led the Panthers team in sacks despite playing in limited game packages.
Picture of consistency, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
Despite he being older than
I
time.
think 9 seasons with 5 or more sacks consecutive seasons.
Yeah. He's
remarkable,
just been
really.
there forever.
So, and then the other name, Doug Baldwin, probably. Now, I have a theory about Doug Baldwin where he's obviously the Seahawks' ex-receiver or number 1 receiver, right? But for me, he's like a 1.5 receiver because he's too good to be a number 2 receiver, don't get me wrong. He's not in that category. But when I think about some of the number 1 receivers in the league, like your Hopkins, your Brown, your Jones, other players like that, he's not really in that discussion. But I don't want to just relegate him to like rank of wide receiver 2.
He's a very good receiver. He's a very dangerous receiver.
And he's got great chemistry with Russell Wilson, which can't be understated.
Yeah, I think he's someone who understands
how Wilson
implicitly
works and how the Seahawks
if
offense.
he can look at Wilson moving, being flushed out, and get himself in a position to help Wilson.
Yeah,
Like he did with Arizona game.
Yeah, and that's something that isn't really
picked up on.
It's not really coachable as well. Like that's just a natural feel. And he's a very, very good player. And he's when he's incredibly competitive.
Yeah,
He's an interesting story.
Is he a kick return guy as well? Or have I made that
I believe he used to be.
Oh, is
I'm
that Tyler Lockett?
sure he's not
Yeah.
anymore. But I think the thing for him as well is he's still a part of the offense that was there when the defense won
Yeah.
for Super Bowl 2. So I don't know if maybe he's kind of hanging around at the lower end consistently because people don't see him as the offensive threat because
Yeah.
the Seahawks aren't an offensive threat.
He's productive though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Like,
very
Yeah.
productive.
in a team.
Would you take him over Peppers?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No, when you think about the consistency of Peppers,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's insane.
Cool. So we'll put Julius Peppers at 91. We happy with
Yeah,
that?
that's
the
fine.
only other name maybe Mike Daniels. But then if you compare kind of edge rushing threats, I'd take Peppers over Daniels personally.
Yeah.
As a Panthers fan, yes, but also as a
Yeah, I probably would too.
So none of
Daniels is good.
very good.
But
I guess the question then is Daniels or Baldwin.
Daniels
I think
causes problems.
He
He
both with his play and his mouth.
yeah. Yeah.
He's worth a soundbite though. He's always a quote ready man.
I'd
Yeah.
quotable. What do we
Probably
think?
my
We'll go one by one.
D-line bias gives me
D-line
to-
bias.
yeah.
Daniels.
I think based on the Seahawks offense last year, I think Daniels.
Daniels.
I want to say Baldwin.
Say Baldwin then.
Okay.
I want to say Baldwin,
Oh.
but I'll go for Daniels.
I thought you were going to go, I'm going to say Daniels. It
No,
doesn't matter.
I
Yeah.
wanted to say.
I will go for Daniels.
I wanted
yeah.
to say Baldwin, but I'm like, if I'm unsure, I'm like, who would I? If I was building my team, who would?
Yeah.
I'd take Daniels.
Doug Baldwin.
Because he's
Right.
good with the PR.
Sound bites.
In terms of who we have next, another edge rusher, or a couple of D linesmen as well, Brandon Graham and Malik Jackson. I'd put Brandon Graham above Malik Jackson. I don't think I'd put either of them above Daniels or Peppers.
No.
Probably not, because and my reasoning there would be Peppers has the history and
Yeah.
consistency. Daniels is de facto the main guy on his team.
Yeah.
The others, these guys are great, but they're complementary to a
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
So that'd be my reasoning there.
Graham. Would I put Graham above Doug Baldwin is the question. I don't think I
Probably
would.
not, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Graham is a great edge rushing threat, but I think on that Eagles D line, it can make a lot of good players seem great.
And Doug Baldwin's a playmaker on what is effectively a shocker of a team.
Has to be remembered as well is that the Eagles were fairly frequent with their rotation on edge
Yeah,
rushers
very
too. It's
true.
not like, say, a Denver where Von Miller is always there.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm sure I'll shout this guy a lot throughout this Nflementop 100.
If
Brett
it's
Coleman.
one shot, then
No,
it's not
a one
happening.
shot. It's Brett Coleman. He does film breakdowns on YouTube. Incredible talent. Please do check him out. But when he did his video on the Eagles, he talks about how the fact that they were able to rotate their edge rushers so often, they were they were 3 deep at both edges, and that meant that actually, say you're on a third down, like they were in that Patriots game, for example, in the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl
The Super
game.
Bowl, yeah.
Just that Patriots game in week...
in week 18. Well, no, beside the point.
Super Bowl, that was the Patriots game, pretty much.
And it meant that Brandon Graham was able to come in fresh and not come in having played 2 downs and having gone up against tackles twice and having exhausted his moves. He was able to come in fresh against 2 probably quite tired tackles and then get through and make the sack.
That was an interesting formation, though, because they had 3 edge rushers on the field, one of them, which I think was Graham, actually acting as a tackle.
Yeah.
And they obviously were doing their edge rush thing in together, which was really fun to watch. And I screamed a little and peed. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Shout out Eagles. You made Max P.
Anyway.
But yeah, I can't remember what the point was. Basically, Brandon Graham is not made to look good by his team, but that's a factor in his success.
He's got a platform, hasn't he? Like a better platform.
But then equally so does Malik Jackson. So
yeah.
And I think looking through who we have left on the list, so that's Alex Mack, Jimmy Graham, and Richard Sherman. I would use Alex Mack probably to split Brandon Graham and Malik Jackson.
Probably just because Mack's very, very good.
He is insane at what he does. Centre is, well, I don't know if this is just a conception I've picked up incorrectly, but it's probably one of the it's the less valued position on the O-line.
To people who know, it is the most because they're the ones who generally call out the checks. They're the ones who have to be in tune with the quarterback in terms of changing protection, pointing out blitzing threats, etc., etc. While the tackles are the more athletic
ones, yeah.
The centre's the one with the
brains.
nods. And if you get a centre who's that switched on and can still be incredibly effective in his blocking assignments,
I would actually say if you compare, I hate to keep doing this, but I'm a Panthers fan, so I know the roster very well. If I compare Alex Mack to Ryan Khalil, who's our centre, I know Ryan Khalil has the brain for a fact. What Alex Mack has that Ryan Khalil doesn't have, is that kind of physicalness and the ability to play almost like a guard with a centre's brain.
Yep.
Which, I mean, Ryan Khalil is obviously an immense physical talent, or he wouldn't be in the NFL. But in terms of comparing my centre to probably one of the league's best, that's the difference.
Well, if you want an example of a bad one, go watch the Week 1 game between the Rams and the Colts. The Colts had a rookie centre on the field, and twice he screwed up the call, and he was too late, which meant that I think Scott Tolzien threw 2 picks.
Yeah,
straight after because it was too late.
And then
so it's pretty
Tolzien will get blamed for those picks.
Yeah,
but I mean, there's more to it than that. It's important to have a good centre. Is it more important than Brandon Graham?
I kind of like the idea of splitting.
Yeah,
those two splitting.
Okay, so Alex Mack comes in at 95, and Malik Jackson or Jimmy Graham.
Malik Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy Graham's great, but as sort of an end zone threat, like. He seems to not get balls at all.
What was it you said earlier, Max? Like all his catches are in the end zone.
Well, they are. Like,
I'm fairly
That's
sure.
fine. I'm okay with it.
He's a role player, and he's probably one of the best role players of what he does in the league. And he does add something to Green Bay when he plays.
That's the thing.
He will add something.
Green Bay don't typically use their tight ends, but you need someone in the end zone, the red zone, to get you in the end zone, and he will do that for you.
So do we rate him more than Sherman?
I would be tempted to say yes, just because Sherman seems to be dipping off, whereas I haven't seen that as much with.
Well, Graham had a great couple of years at New Orleans. He went to Seattle as the big pickup.
Yeah.
And he's performed as the red zone threat. He hasn't performed really on the rest of the pitch, and there were trade talks about him next year, and obviously he has now left.
Because naturally I would have said but I'm thinking maybe Sherman does get the edge here.
Yeah.
I mean, Graham only thinks it's a 20-yard field. Like, he doesn't know.
There's a whole 80 yards of field he doesn't even know about.
I mean, both Seahawks rejects, am I allowed to say that? both kind of
Call
pushed
them
away by the
rejects.
Seahawks.
No,
Expendables.
I think if you ask Sherman, he was pushed away by the Seahawks or pushed away by Pete Carroll.
Well, he rang them, didn't he, when he got an offer to say, "Oh, do you want to match it?" And they're like, "No, you're all right."
Yeah.
It's all right, mate.
Rip the Seahawks. Right, well, there's the first episode of our NFLMN Top 100 complete. I'll run you through it quickly. At 91, we have Red Hot Julius Peppers. At 92, we have Mike the Man Daniels. At 93, we have Dog Bald. Win. At 94, we have Brandon Graham. At 95, we have Alex Return of the Mac.
That was good.
Thanks very much. At 96, we have Malik the Freak Jackson. I'll just use that one. At 97, we have Richard Sherman and what's that TV show called? Sherman and Peabody. There we go. At 98, I've written Jimmy Carroll. We were talking about Pete Carroll. I wrote Jimmy Carroll. That is not his name.
His name, we can confirm it's Jimmy Graham.
Brandon Graham's brother from another mother. Jimmy Graham. And then at 99 we have JJ What's Up. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. And then at 100 we have I Rest My Case Keenum.
Yeah.
Rest my case. Boom. Finish episode.
That is, well, actually that's the end of the first episode for you, but for us it's the end of a long 2 days of filming because we've done it in reverse order. So please do forgive any kind of slips or anything like that if you do encounter them as you watch through the rest of these. Make sure you watch the introduction video if you want a bigger and more understandable explanation of Liam's laissez-faire rules, or what are we calling them? Parameters. Yeah, there we go. And make sure obviously you subscribe so you don't miss all the next uploads as we count down our way to the number 1 on the NFLMN Top 100. If you could like, comment, subscribe, that would be awesome. We'd really appreciate it, and share it with all your friends and family. We're trying to get the word out about NFL Elementary as much as we can. This has been a massive project. We've really enjoyed putting time into it. I realise I probably should have said this at the end of the first video that we did, but hey, I'm saying it now for your pleasure. Please do watch the rest of the videos as well. Thank you very much for watching. All the best. See you later.